Hi, a very good afternoon to all of our viewers out there. This is our show, A Politically Incorrect Guyana, and we are once more pleased to be live streaming this show on the Break News Network, TVN, and on the various pages on the Guyanese Critic. You can get him on Facebook, you can get him on YouTube, and I'm very hopeful that this program can be an interesting one. Over the past week, we have had a lot of developments with regard to Guyana, and clearly we can see that Guyana is becoming a hub for CARICOM, first and foremost, and more so on the international scene. We would have seen our president attend the head of government conference for the 50th anniversary of CARICOM quite lately, and we can see that our president is making strides in achieving certain developments for Guyana and for the wider Caribbean. For example, making us the food basket, something that we were in the early 70s and 80s. And of course, looking at the issues plaguing small island states and small countries such as Guyana. Importantly, we have also seen a visit from the Honorable, it is the Mr. Blinken. His official portfolio, he is the Secretary of State of the United States of America. It is the second time that we have seen a Secretary of State visit Guyana. We know that Mike Pompeo would have visited Guyana in the past, and clearly this is something that is not the norm. So the fact that the great United States of America is paying attention to Guyana speaks a whole lot for what is happening in Guyana. And of course, whatever is happening in Guyana is reflected on the wider scene. So much so that all the good and all the bad that happens in Guyana, it's portrayed out there to the wider world, and they view us under microscopic lenses. Today and yesterday on the national scene, we have seen some new developments. Recently, we had our local government elections, and we would have seen some results for those. And based on those election results, we have started seeing the various councils being filled. I am heartened by what I see happening in the various tongues, because I see a plethora of young persons taking up the challenge to lead, and it can only bode well for the future of Guyana and for young people in general. So I want to say kudos to all of those persons who have taken up those leadership positions across the various municipalities and NDCs in Guyana. Today on the show, I have with me a young man, someone who has been working with various NGOs, and more so looking at various aspects with regard to the rights of the child and children and child care protection. I have with me a young man here who, I saw one of his posts today, and he was like, wow, there is a 28-year-old who is the mayor of one of our major cities. Major towns rather. I think he was speaking about the 28-year-old from Regina, and clearly he was struck with that. Yes, a 28-year-old can lead, and similarly, he is a leader in his own right. He has garnered over 10 years of experience working with childcare and some of the various NGOs that look at children and their rights. He is an ambassador for the rights of the child. And as such, we're going to have him here on the show to give his personal views with regard to some of the things that are happening in Guyana, but also more specifically to speak a bit on one of the issues that has been in the airwaves quite lately, the issue involving the allegations of rape against a sitting minister of our current government. We know that there has been developments. Minister Dharamlal would have submitted a resignation as both a minister and a member of parliament, or at least that is what was conveyed to us by His Excellency, our president. And we are currently awaiting for that to be made official, for his replacement to be named in both parliament and, of course, as a minister, if needs be. And more importantly, what we want to do is have a conversation on whether or not justice was served with regard to everything surrounding the developments of this allegation against Minister Dharamlal. I would like to introduce my guest, I would say co-host, Mr. Joel Ramesh, for him to have brief introductory remarks. Joel, good afternoon. Nice
Hi.
having you on the show.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening to you. All right, the floor is yours. You can make your introduction to the Guyanese population.
Good evening, everyone. So, my name is Joel. I've been advocating for the rights of children and suicide prevention for the past 10 years. I'm also a child rights ambassador attached to the Rights of the Child Commission, as well as an author. I've recently published my first book on child rights, which focuses on the right of the child to his or her own opinion and thoughts, and the fact that they're adults that should listen. But
Thank you.
Brief summary.
Yes, thank you, Joel. Child rights and the rights of the child. Being an ambassador, this is a field that generally we don't see young people being involved. Could you give us a little background with regard to how you became involved in this field?
Well, it first started with human rights and suicide prevention, and since it started there, and as a teenager, I had struggled with depression and suicidal thoughts. So I understand that sometimes persons might not be so strong-willed and they might choose to give up. So I know there are persons like that out there, so I didn't want them to think that no one cares about them and they don't have the right to live.
Thank you very much. A couple of years ago, Guyana was listed, along with South Korea, as being the suicide capital per capita of the world. We have seen lots and lots of cases whereby persons commit suicide or attempt suicide, and there has been great suffering brought on their next of kin, their families. How is the suicide rate currently in Guyana based on whatever latest research is out there? I know you've written a book on child rights, and I know that you are working with various organizations representing children. Yes, how do we see suicide on generally in the Guyanese population, but more so in the youthful population, those that still qualify as children? Any
Right.
figures?
The department and agency responsible for publishing the report on suicide rates in Guyana has not done that as yet for 2022. Usually at the end of the year, about 2-3 months after, maybe February or so, you might get a report on the previous year, including not only suicide but child abuse statistics. It has not been published as yet, but there is information in it there. They have some more, I suppose, some more research that needs to be done to make sure everything is correct.
Okay. Coming back to, we'll go back to the child rights and the areas which I consider your forte. Joel, you've recently seen local government elections at play. I know you were hoping to be a candidate for the area. You've had some difficulties that I know of. You've moved from one location to the next, and as such, getting your documentation and stuff proved to be a bit of an issue this time. But what are your expectations based on the results of the recent LGEs?
The expectation, it is the same thing that has happened for the past 50 years. I don't expect anything different. There are two large buses that are parked 2 streets away from where I live. I consider them the local government monuments. They are rotting. They're an eyesore.
What buses are you speaking about? The David Granger buses?
No, they're mini buses. The NDC they did some cleanup, but they forgot to remove that. I guess they didn't see it.
And this is in which NDC?
This is in Lusignan,
Oh,
NDC.
this is in the Luzignan NDC.
Hmm.
Well, let's just give a shout out to all those who were elected councillors of the Luzignan NDC, and hopefully, now that you've highlighted that issue, hopefully it can be addressed in the very near future.
Oh, I have the Lusignan NDC on Facebook. I tagged them in the picture. They they look like I didn't see a response. I'm going to print the picture out and take it to them in person.
Congrats and well done. Just a reminder to all our viewers out there, if we as citizens do not take up the mantra to better our communities, to report on the issues that we face and whether or not they're addressed, whether it's wholly or partially, these issues will never make the front line. And so in my last show here, Joel, I was telling it was Mr. Yearwood who was with me. Because I am from the New Amsterdam area, I plan on doing a show in New Amsterdam highlighting issues faced by the residents, not only in my constituency, but the entire New Amsterdam municipality. That way, we will be able to highlight the good, the bad, and the not so bad of the current mayor and town council, be it either from the APNO AFC or from the PPPC's side, and see exactly who is doing their work and who is responsible for addressing all of these issues. With that in mind, I would just like to give a shout out to some of the mayors. I glanced through some of the articles out today, and I can say for sure I know Wainwright McIntosh, who is our new mayor in New Amsterdam. I want to give him a shout out. I know he's a very hard worker. Wayne and the big Kirk Fraser, he's known as Kirky in New Amsterdam. I would like to give them a hail up. To the Georgetown municipality, Mr. Alfred Mentor, someone who I have respect for. I have seen him doing work in the cricketing fraternity. I know he is heavily involved with cricket, and he has been the deputy mayor for the past term. He served alongside Mayor Ubraj Narain. So congrats, Mr. Mentor, on your elevation to the highest post in the municipality. Also to Ms. Miller, who will be an able deputy, I hope. Today I was supposed to have Mr. Don Singh, one of the elected councillors. I think Don ran for constituency 1, and he did win. Right? At the last election, he did collect a beating from Ubraj Narain, and it's good to see him actually win his area this time. So he was supposed to be here, but he has another forum. I think the councillors of the PPP are currently meeting with some of their party leaders to look at the work that.
He quit politics.
No. So based on the conversations I've seen with Ubraj in public, he is not. He was not running back as a constituency candidate for local government election, but he is still in politics with his party.
Okay.
So the persons in Essequibo, and Regina, I see Mr. Devin Mohan, the 28-year-old lecturer from the Essequibo Technical Institute. Congrats to you also. Ms. Lorna Fitzallen, she is the deputy mayor. She was there from before. In Linden, 2 new faces, relatively young, but some experience there. Mr. Sharma Solomon, he was previously the regional chair, one of the younger regional chairs that we had. And then he took a break, or was given a break from his party. Now he's back. He did win his constituency in Amelia's ward, and he is now the mayor of Linden. He is going to be supported by Mr. Dominic Blair, another young fellow, hoping to see good things coming out of the mining town, and hopefully they can find some ways and means in working with the current government, ensure that central government and the local authorities work hand in hand. In Bartico, we see Mr. Anthony Murray. He is a young, not that young, but he's young also. And Miss Gail Ann Prasad, new persons they are taking over from Mr. Marshall, who was the incumbent mayor. In Madhya, and this is something that I'd like to highlight, we see 2 persons relatively young and females. And this is something that we want to see in our country. We want to see women taking the lead. We want to see women going in leadership positions and not being afraid to challenge the men. So Miss Eslin Hussein and Miss Akita Evans, both females from Madhya, we will be looking out at your performance and hopefully seeing great things from you. And the other three townships, Cariveton, Rose Hall, and of course Lethem, we haven't seen any news, or I haven't seen any news with regard to their mayors and their leaders. But I only hope that whomever is elected, whomever is put there, will represent their peoples in the manner that they should. Joel, you hope to
Yes.
be a mayor sometime?
Yes, sir.
You planning to move to Georgetown
If the need
to be a
arise,
mayor of a
yes.
city?
Yes, of course. Because
Okay,
that's the closest city to
that's
where
the
I live.
closest city. Well, we'll keep our fingers crossed, and hopefully, you'll have some
One step
success,
at a time.
one step at a time. Okay, Joel, coming back to your area of expertise, your forte MSc,
Mhm.
we've seen a 16-year-old make allegations against a sitting minister. Now, this is not the first time that said minister has faced such allegations. There are recordings, screenshots all over social media and in the wider public of this minister having such conversations with other females, right? There was one instance whereby I think it was a young woman from the United States of America who would have accused him of grooming to some sort. And because they were adults, it didn't go along the same channel. But that matter died down. I think the excuse that the minister gave then, even though there were pictures of him and some very unnerving pictures of him being sent to that young woman, but he claimed that his Facebook account was hacked, right? Similarly, I've seen other such complaints. I know of existing complaints against this same individual even before he became a minister of government. And these stories tend to follow him and have been following him for some time. Now, it so happened that a minor, a 16-year-old, but when the alleged incident occurred, she may have been a minor, raised these allegations against a sitting minister. And we've seen many persons come to his defense and come to the defense of the system. And what I like to focus on is the system that actually is established in dealing with such cases. And maybe you can give the Guyanese public a breakdown of how such matters are dealt with. Right? So, for example, we can see some things that I think should not have happened. So there is a purported statement that was released by the young woman, signed by the officer in charge of Region 2, a male officer, that is, claiming that nothing that was said was true initially. Right? We know that generally females and more so minors, any matter involving the police, first of all, they should have, whether it's their parents or guardian, being present. And secondly, if it's a female, for them to have a female officer taking the complaints or the notes, and of course, interviewing and releasing anything. All right. So having a male officer and of course the person who is in charge coming out with such a statement right away, it sets the famous red flags alight. Right? And you can see them from that very first moment. Secondly, of course, we've had the minister telling the president, and I think it should have been the other way around, right? That, okay, he wants the matter to be investigated independently, and as such, he's going to step down both from his office as minister and from his office as a member of parliament, right? I don't think we need to be asking anyone. If we live in a civilized society, whenever such allegations surface, right away, the human thing, the mature thing to do would be to have a seat and said, okay, please, I'm going to stay away from this investigation, or for your leader, in this case, our president, to ask him and to come out right away and ask him, okay, Minister Dharamlal, kindly step aside so that the investigations can happen. Thirdly, we've seen the involvement of various organizations. So, for example, we've seen the Child Care and Protection Agency taking a, a great role in this case. We've also seen the Ministry of Education and our most senior educational officer actually having conversations, and there have been records of him having conversations with the person and trying to be an intermediary between the parents and the relevant authorities, something that should not be happening. We've also seen a non-governmental organization, Blossom Inc., taking the lead in either being there present whenever this young woman is being interviewed, hopefully. But we've also seen cries of from what we term independent lawyers who have said that they're willing to represent this young woman, but not being given an opportunity to have that conversation with her. And from all evidence, it seems that this young woman was locked away. She was prevented from meeting anyone outside of those who were given the authority to meet her, and that wholly and solely depended on the government and the relevant authorities. They decided who can see her, they decided who can speak to her, and guess what? The case went to the DPP, right? The DPP delivered a verdict that, oh, you know what, the evidence was insufficient and she needed more. What exactly was insufficient, what more she needed to make a decision, and even the excuse in that, oh, we couldn't make a decision right away because we have thousands and thousands of cases, whereby we all know that such a matter of national importance involving a sitting minister is your utmost priority, should be your number one case, should be where all your efforts are focused. And so for the DPP to send it back to the police, I am not sure because I haven't seen the correspondence between the DPP and the police asking what specifically they would need to get a decision. But all of that came to naught because quite soon after the case was sent back to the police, we saw the revelation that the young woman is withdrawing all of the claims, and as such, the minister cannot be charged or will not be charged or is not advised to charge the minister of any charge. Okay. Right? So that is where we stand currently. And as a Guyanese citizen, as a young person, I clearly feel that somewhere along the line, justice was not served, justice is not being served. And if this matter is allowed to die down as it currently has, and is looking to, right? Then how can we stop such predators, such persons from preying on the unsuspecting, on the young, and on those who may need their care and guidance more than anything else, right? So all of that is me basically summarizing information that is out there. There are a lot more information, but Joel, now that you are here, you have dealt with, I'm guessing, similar cases. There should be a protocol.
There is.
Okay. Can you guide the Guyanese public on how we go about resolving such issues, such cases, whenever such allegations are made against anyone, more so an adult?
In first instance, you are required to visit the police station. That's first. And make a report. Make a report to the police station, and then from there, the police would contact the Child Care and Protection Agency, which will counsel the child and take a report from the child. The that officer has to be present, as well as the parent, for the report to be made. Then from there, that report is taken, and the person that is the perpetrator of a crime is charged. Then you're taken to court, processed, and then you get a jury to decide if you're guilty or not. That's usually how it goes. But I'm pretty sure everyone saw it on the news. That's not how this case went.
Okay, so initially a report needs to be made
at the
at a
police
police
station.
station.
Yes.
When that report is made, given that it is a
You
young female who is involved,
right.
who is supposed to listen to that report, make the notes, and then submit it to, I'm guessing, their senior officer?
The the Child Care and Protection Agency has to be involved there too. They make a report from that and the police as well.
Okay, so
So
once the
that is
matter
how.
is raised with the police,
Mhm.
immediately Child Care and Protection Agency is supposed to be notified.
Yes,
Okay.
that is how you get your statistics on the cases per year. Okay.
Okay. After the Child Care and Protection Agency has been notified, what is the next step?
That they from there the police has to take over. They have to process. They have to go look for the person that is accused.
Okay.
Mhm.
Uh,
Actually, sorry, my apologies. A rape kit is done.
is there like a time frame for? I'm a medical doctor. I've
Mhm.
seen the rape kits.
72 hours.
72 hours. So,
Yeah,
given the fact that this incident would have happened a long time before, that may not hold any relevance
that is correct.
currently. Okay.
But
We know that for the cases whereby if
there's
something just happened and within the first 48 to 72 hours, you may be able to find evidence. This was not the.
that is true. However, uh, grooming is a form of sexual abuse. So
Mr. Ramesh, what is grooming?
grooming,
We may
sexual
have
grooming.
Guyanese out there who
All
may not
right.
understand what exactly is
There's
grooming.
here is a form of sexual abuse. You showing a child pornographic images is a form of sexual abuse.
Hmm. Is that the only form of grooming?
No, there isn't. No, it's not.
What else exists out there?
There are other instances where you could influence the child behavior, tell them, hey, this is what you should. You could encourage them to. There
So
hold
sharing,
on.
we may consider pornographic material, having conversations. I'm guessing having
Yeah.
conversations whereby, as has been alleged, you promise these individuals something, whether it is a job, whether it is financial reward or some other reward, a scholarship or something. Clearly, by being someone in a position of power, uh, there should be and there must be protocols that prevent such
I'm glad you
incidents.
mentioned that. The
Yes.
Article 34 in the Convention of the Rights of the Child,
Hmm.
it states that the state parties undertake to protect the child from all forms of sexual exploitation and abuse. That means the government undertakes to protect children from sexual exploitation and abuse. So if the government is responsible to protect children from sexual abuse and a member of the government decides to sexually abuse a child, now we're in a pickle, aren't we?
Uh, so I have seen various protest actions with some of the non-governmental organizations. I think yesterday, Ms. Trotz, she is, I think Ms. Elisa Trotz, she writes in the newspaper and is one of the leading advocates for Red Thread. I think she was out there along with the APA, the Amerindian People's Association, and they have been vociferous in condemning these allegations and, of course, the process through which the investigations were done and the current end result that we have. We have seen them make quite a lengthy statement on the issue, and they have vouched to continue their investigations with regard to this case. I know other individuals, organizations are planning to continue their investigations. So, for example, I saw it was the APNU AFC, I think, had a protest
Yeah,
a couple of days ago, and Attorney Darren Wade did say that this is not the end of the story. And it doesn't matter if it's 1 year, 2 year, 5 years from now. Any allegation of rape, any allegation of buggery, right? These are
Mm-hmm.
two that were mentioned, will and can be investigated anytime after. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter when the report is made, how late it's made, or if it was made and then there's a change and then the person recanted their story. So clearly, this is not the end of this matter. And
Mm-hmm.
personally, I don't think this should be the end of this matter. I don't think true justice was served. And I do believe that even though the minister would have resigned, both as a minister and as a member of parliament, clearly justice was not served.
Well, I'm not sure if the young lady understands how much of an impact her statement she made about the allegations would have impacted young girls nationwide to come out and speak out about being raped. Because in the future, if there's no charge, nothing happens, you're going to eventually instill in the minds of young girls that nothing would come about if I speak out on it.
And this is what I would like to prevent. And that is why when I saw the two young ladies being elected the mayors and deputy mayor of mayor and deputy mayor of Madhya, right? This is a positive enlightenment for young people, but more so for the young female indigenous population out there. We know that of all the ethnicities across Guyana, the indigenous population faces the most hurdles. The access to education, access to basic amenities of life, water, clean drinking water, um, university education, uh, even simple things like a high school education. It's difficult for many of those persons living in the interior. And I can speak on this because I have lived it, right? Growing up in the Berbice River area, I have lived it, but also in my work for the past 3 years, I have traveled extensively across Guyana to most of the hinterland communities, all of the regions, uh, and I have seen the conditions under which my people live. I have
Mm-hmm.
seen the suffering. I have seen how their parents strive their utmost using education as the tool for them to get out of this kind of lifestyle. And so, for persons of influence to take advantage of these persons, these young individuals, it really pains my heart. And that is why, personally, I don't believe that justice was served. And I do believe that a whole lot more can and should be done. Okay. Again, as you're saying, it does depend on the individual,
Mm-hmm.
right? And if she has recanted her story as is reported, well, then there's only so much we can do currently, right? But what we want to do is fix the system. So we want to ensure that, I think, and this is my personal opinion, that some
Mm-hmm.
sort of inquiry, some sort of independent inquiry, because we've had inquiries before, we've had various commissions of inquiries, and we've seen nothing come out of it, right? Including national commissions of inquiry. For example, um, the WPA leaders assassination, the Lindo Creek massacre,
GW.
right?
The
We've seen those commissions of inquiry being done at a cost of millions of dollars to the public purse, and nothing much has come out of it. Okay, and I do believe that if an independent inquiry is done with regard to the process from the very first time the claims were made against the sitting minister, to the persons who took the initial reports, to the various and non-governmental organizations and governmental organizations that were involved, then we can have a clearer picture of what went wrong, where it went wrong, and who was wrong. And in that way, we can try to correct the system, right? Only by unearthing the flaws in our system, by highlighting them out there, will we be able to effectively address them. And that is why I want to see an independent inquiry into this matter.
highlighting and also providing recommendations. Yes, and one more thing to add. You've how close knitted is the Amerindian community, would you say?
Uh,
And
so
this is I have a follow-up question for that.
I would believe that the and this is me growing up in an Amerindian
Mm-hmm.
community that generally young kids and young adults
Mm-hmm.
they tend to listen to their parents, but also they tend to keep a lot of information away from elders, right? It is their ways and means, and it's not something that you see in the Amerindian population only or in the indigenous population only, but you
Okay.
generally see it with young
It
people.
would.
But what happens is that a lot of times issues that are affecting persons in the community are stymied, are not brought to the forefront, right? And
Mm,
we've seen many persons highlight that, you know what, uh, persons impregnating minors, for example. Almost every year at the GPHC, we see 12 and 13-year-olds who come out pregnant, right?
okay.
Any case where you become pregnant under the age of 16, you're supposed to do an inquiry. Who is the potential father? Who is the person who would have impregnated this person?
Mm,
But it's something that is not effectively addressed. Okay,
right.
and I know that there have been similar cases. It may not be rape, but it can be abuse, and abuse comes in various forms
Would
that is
you
affecting this population.
would you consider the community of a young lady after that has happened to be the safest place for her?
Most certainly not,
Most certainly
right?
not.
Um,
What about her home if
so
she is?
we are expecting, and this is the norm, that if there's anything that affects you, the first persons that you tend to run to
Hmm.
for help, for guidance, is your parents,
Yeah.
right? But if your parents may be a part of the problem, I'm not saying it is in this
Hmm.
instance, but if your parents are a part of the problem, then where can you feel safe? Who can you go to? So we look to the next tier of persons who you would go to. Is there a guidance counselor? Is there some teacher, a headmaster who you can have that conversation with? Your leaders of the community, your religious leaders, be it a priest, a pastor, a pandit, an imam, whomever it is, this is the next level of persons who would normally try to address any such issues and for someone to look for comfort or to look for ways and means of getting their story out. Uh, Most certainly, if you're living in an environment whereby you may not trust your parents, you may not trust the adults who are around because they are or they can be easily influenced by various persons, then you're left on your own. And so, for a 16-year-old to be left on their own, um, it's quite telling. And we need to, as a community, as a country, as a people, look after each and every victim. And right now, this 16-year-old is a victim.
Hmm.
We need to ensure that their mental health is taken care of. We need to ensure that their physical health is taken care of. We need to ensure that they are not exposed to persons who may intimidate, bully, or ill treat them based on their experience that they've had in the past. And we have seen this happen over and over. And social media has brought this much closer to home because we've seen photos of this young lady up on social media. Quite recently, we've seen photos up of the purported person who did the arson act at the Madhya Dormitory School,
Hmm.
even though she would have said she didn't do anything as such, and there's no proof. Okay, but we have seen social media come behind these persons, and based on the comments right from this show, right, that I'm seeing
There
here,
are idle
I know
people.
there are many persons there who are saying, oh, you know what? The girl was lying. This is why she didn't report it initially. That is why she pulled back her story, or she only looking to share the minister. Well done, Minister Dharamlal. Right? These are the kind of comments, and these are the kind of individuals who would tend to send these victims into a little corner searching for refuge. And this is how we get our
Well,
statistics of mental health and
What
suicide up
what
because of such behaviors.
what you're saying? You would agree with the Child Care and Protection Agency to remove the young lady from her home
That is not
because
my decision to make, and of course, those persons in childcare, and hopefully they're an independent enough organization, and that has the care and well-being of this child at heart.
Mhm.
If that is their recommendation, then most certainly I would agree with those persons. Right? What I don't want to see is this young lady being taken away from her home, being taken away from her siblings, from her parents, and being placed somewhere to face further abuse or to have a mental breakdown. That is what I most certainly
Well,
don't want
that
to
is
see.
probably what happened why she decided not to pursue the case. In most cases, you after you have given your statement at one office, you have 10 more places you have to give the same statement and relive the same horrid experience over and over. It takes a mental toll on you. It breaks you down emotionally, psychologically.
Right? And when you're talking about reliving the experience, we've had comments whereby it was said that the young lady was taken back to the home of the purported abuser, right? And he was there in her presence, even though he may claim he was not,
Okay.
right? Most certainly, and these are the kind of red flags. These are the kind of breakdown in the system that I'm speaking about that needs to be addressing. And I've seen the report from, I've seen the statement from the president, right? What I like to see and for it to be out there in the public is for these various agencies that would have looked after this girl, Child Care and Protection, Blossom Inc., for them to come out and give their side of the story, right? If not, I think they're part and parcel of the issue that we currently face, and I have no qualms in saying such.
The recently we had the National Grade 6 assessment results published,
Mm-hmm.
and I see a lot on Facebook people posting top 10 here, top 10 there. The young lady was in the top 10 when she wrote National Grade
This
6.
young lady?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
But that is as much information. That is public information.
Okay. So clearly we can see that this is a talented individual. This is someone who can be a future president of Guyana.
Yes.
Right? And for your life to be affected as such, for this to happen, it can really take a toll, and you have to be mentally strong for you to get over this and still make something with your life. And that is why I hope that enough attention is placed for the well-being of this young woman, so that she may be able to continue living a productive life, not only for herself but for her community and for the entire country.
The report she made to the president, the letter, it's well written. It's a well written report. So she's a very intelligent young lady.
Right.
So
Well, that is where the story started. Maybe it was too well written.
it was
Right?
too well
It
written.
was, yeah, because that is where people came out and said, you know what? This is the opposition looking to take advantage of the situation. This is the opposition looking to pull down a minister. And that is how the whole politics came into play with regard to this situation, when really and truly it has nothing to do with
It
politics.
has nothing to do with politics. The bitterest truth is better than the sweetest lie.
Some people don't like the truth because it may be a very bitter pill to swallow. But if we do not address it and address it effectively, this will only be another forgotten memory, because soon you're going to have a next case, and then in the ensuing days another case, and it's going to continue. So unless we can fix the system, right, unless we can see the wrongs and see where we fell down, where the system fell down, then we will not be able to effectively address such allegations in the future.
You mentioned earlier that they took the young lady back to the house where one of the incidents happened. You think there can be better systems in place to investigate?
Well, there
Okay.
should be, and even if there is needs for the person to revisit the scene, there are ways and means, and you're aware of this, in which it must be done, right? And first and foremost is not to have the alleged abuser or the alleged attacker, whatever you want to call it,
They
Anywhere around that person.
no, that shouldn't be.
That shouldn't have happened.
A phone call would help. Hey, are you home?
Who's calling who?
The police.
No, if the police is taking that person, then you ensure that this person is not there. If it's the child care protection agency who has to call, if it's the NGO blossoming, whomever it is that is involved.
But what is the purpose of that? To take the child back to?
Well, what I have read, and this is clearly secondhand information, is coming from the various news media, is that they wanted to see if indeed this is part of the investigations. That is, if this is where the alleged incident happened, if the person can recall the settings that were there. She even mentioned in one of the reports that, you know what, the house had a different color. It was recently painted over. Right? And simple investigations can say, you know what, yes, it was recently painted over. You get someone to go and scratch off the first layer of paint, and then you're going to see the color that it had. Right? So all that was part of the investigation. Right? And that is why they did allegedly take her back to that location. How it was done and by whom, again, that is where we have a breakdown in the procedure and the protocol. Okay. Joel, if this is hypothetically speaking, if such an incident happens again, or there's a repeat, not involving the same individual, but someone else, God forbid, right? Not necessarily in the government, but for example, a senior high-ranking person, what can we learn from the Dharamlal saga?
We can learn that history might repeat itself. So far, that is one thing. But if there is enough support from Guyanese, I don't think the matter could die away so easily, because there are reports made already, investigations happened. Does there need to be the young lady present to is there a way to, or loophole to have the case slowly processed?
Well, that is beyond me. And as I did see, the APNO AFC and Darren Wade in particular did say that if anything resurfaces, that they're going to be looking at that avenue. But we have seen, I can call it cover-ups, we have seen issues involving high-ranking individuals of the current government. I think it was last year or the year before, we saw the alleged accidental shooting of a young lady of indigenous descent in the Region 9 area, involving none other than our current, I think it is either the REO or is the chair, Mr. Singh, right? We saw a report going up that, okay, this man shot this young woman in her abdomen. And then a couple of days after rather, it happened to be an accidental shooting. And then there was nothing that came out of it. Right? We've seen other sitting members of parliament being accused of inappropriate behavior. And we have the example of the Region 9 member of parliament being accused of, I think it was sodomizing a young male person. We've seen nothing come out of that story. Again, it's all allegations until proven in a court, right? We've seen the incident whereby a former sitting minister was shooting his gun up in the air. Nothing came out of that story. So with the current government in place, and this is not only about the PPPC, but similar incidents have happened under previous governments, not PPPC. Clearly, there seems to be two sets of laws. One for regular citizens and one for the high-ranking individuals. Because 2 days after the Dharamlal incident, we saw a young man accused of rape being remanded to prison, right? And still potentially awaiting a charge and, of course, possible bail or not. It didn't take the sitting minister 3 hours in the police station. We don't even know if he went into the cell. before he was released on bail.
He was standing outside having a casual conversation. There's photos of it on
I
Facebook.
I was not there, so I can't vouch and say that, oh, he was standing, he was sitting, what he was doing. Well, what I can say for
There was
sure is
photos,
that
Mark.
Mr. Minister, former
Mm-hmm.
Minister Dharamlal, didn't spend a night in the cell. But this other young man accused of the same crime
Mm-hmm.
is still in remand. Clearly, we can see Guyana is for the haves and have-nots, and that is why we need to fix the system. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think that's exactly true. Because they have been. There are photos of him just standing outside of the police station. I've seen it. I've scrolled through about two or three of them. I got four eyes, Mark. I can see clearly. Four eyes.
All right. You see, we have to be very careful on these talk shows,
Mm-hmm.
and ensure that everything that we report on,
Mm-hmm.
that we mention, is either information that is already out there in the public,
Yeah, it's already there.
or it is an alleged
Mm-hmm.
incident or something to that sort. We don't want the break news and the Key and Jabor, a politically incorrect show, to face any charges. And that is why
Okay.
everything I've said here is all material that is out there already. My personal views and what I want, well, I'm entitled to that as a Guyanese citizen,
That is your human right.
right? And is, of course, the
Freedom of
human right
speech.
as mandated by the UN Convention.
And the Constitution of the Republic of Guyana.
Well, that is where we got that from also. Yes. So clearly, Joel, a lot still needs to be clarified with regard to the Dharmlal saga.
There, there was not to be sidetracked, not to sidetrack things from the from that saga. There was some other incidents with the same nature that has gone under the radar as well. There's
You want to shed some light, share with the
yeah,
public?
there was Renetta Belfield, I believe her name is, that was murdered and her body found right opposite the police station.
Which police station is this?
That would have been Beefy police station at the cemetery. That was in 2017. The case is still open. It hasn't been no justice for the family has been done. That happened. She was 18, so she just turned an adult. But those are I've written an article about that, and it's going to be published in one of my human rights books.
Great. On a personal level, Joel, you've mentioned that you've authored a book on human rights already.
Yeah.
Your future publications / writings are along similar thread?
Yes, sir.
And okay. And they're all nonfiction based on
The stories may one or two stories may if it's a fictional book, it's
based on something.
fiction alone, but it was going to address one of the human rights articles or child rights articles. But if it's a book on just human rights in Guyana, it's going to be personal stories. I'll need to reach out to the family of those victims. Hopefully, they would be interested in me interviewing them about those cases, and so I can share their stories.
Great, and I can only wish you the best of luck in your future endeavors, especially writing. It takes quite some time and it's quite a toll.
It takes
On
a
a
lot.
personal level, I have always said that, you know what, Mark, you have to write a book, and I have so many ideas with regard to books, both fiction, non-fiction. And the hope is that before I'm 40, I will have authored a book. I still got some time there.
You got time, don't worry about it.
Right, so
Just know that
that is something that I will be looking.
you don't get to sleep some nights. As you can see, got a lot of dark circles.
That's okay. I don't get to
Because
sleep regardless.
The thoughts just keep flowing after you start.
Okay. Well, for me, it's writer's block.
Okay.
We have a couple more minutes. Joel, is there anything you want to share with the public out there today? Not necessarily on this topic, but I know this is a topic that is of importance to you, and is close to heart. Is there anything that you want to leave the Guyanese public with this evening?
So there's someone wise once said, "Until it happens to you, you won't know how I feel." Until it happens to you, you won't know how I feel. Do the persons who would have influenced the young lady to recant her statement, have they ever been raped at that age? Would they know how she feels, what she's going through mentally? She is going to think about, more than likely, her future. It's going to eventually affect her, because no matter how, there's physical scars heal.
Mm-hmm.
You cut yourself, is going to heal, but psychological and emotional scars, they last forever. It takes a lifetime to heal.
Thank you very much. And that is the message that we want each and everyone to take home today. You never experience anything until you're actually experiencing it yourself. And so it only hits home when you yourself or your loved ones are involved. And let us take that wherever we go and ensure that when we speak, when we comment, when we criticize, or when we praise, we always remember that there are others who are involved, and they and their families are affected by everything that we do and we say. And so we must give them their dues and ensure that justice is always served and always prevails. Uh, One final thing before I close off. You did mention, Joel, that today we have received some of the results from our national grade 6 examinations.
Yes.
And what we have seen is that clearly there are improvements being made across the educational sector, but also there are only so many places at the top schools. And until we can get the focus away from attending a top school and ensuring that all our schools are on level playing field, have the same facilities, have the same resources, have the same cadre of teachers, then we will always have children trying to get the 500 and I think it is 500 499.2 marks to go QC.
492.
499.2.
It doesn't. I've contrary to popular belief, it's if you it doesn't require you to attend Queen's College to write the book. When you get older, you don't have to attend. Because I'm an author, I didn't attend Queen's College. But if I tell people like, hey, I attend Queen's College, they'll believe me. If I tell them that's a lie, I didn't. If I tell them the truth which is I attended Golden Grove Secondary,
Mm-hmm.
they'll say, where's Golden Grove Secondary? You're lying.
Right, and that is what we need to go out there in the public. It does not matter the school that you attended. So, for example, I attended President's College. Right, I did relatively well at what was then known as the Common Entrance or the Grade 6 examinations.
Mm-hmm.
I got 15th in the country. I missed the maximum mark by 8. I got Queen's College, but because of where I live, I was unable to, and I didn't want to stay with a guardian. So, as such, I attended President's College. But I have seen persons come from what we traditionally call lesser schools, achieve much more than I have. They are much more successful. They have done much more in life. And again, even in my batch of students that went with me to Cuba, right? We have seen persons that come from what we consider lesser schools excel and do better than persons who attended the top grades, top schools across the country. It has a lot to do with you, the student, with how much work you put in, how much time you're willing to dedicate to making yourself a better individual, a better person, and for you to have a successful future. So for those students out there who may not have gotten Saints, Joseph, Bishops, Queen's College, St. Stanislaus, President's College, or the top regional schools, New Amsterdam, Multilateral, and Regina.
There's a new school, Good Hope.
There is a new school in Good Hope. There is, and there will be many opportunities for you to make something of yourself. And it does not matter the secondary school that you have gotten, nor the secondary school that you will attend. Our hope is that with the oil revenues and the abundance in oil revenues, that each and every school out there will have improvements. As you mentioned, in Good Hope is one of the newest schools, I think $1 billion+. But we're hoping to see all of the existing schools not only be brought up to scratch with regard to the curriculum, with regard to the facilities, and of course, the big one that was recently in the news, having safety mechanisms and precautions in place in case there's any fire or any adverse event, right? We want to ensure that all our Guyanese children have a fair chance of making something of themselves in life. And for all to say at the end of the day that, you know what, it doesn't matter which school you go to. I can go to the Bijeval Multilateral and do better than Queen's College student or achieve much more, right? And so really and truly, this is what I tend to do with myself. I don't compare myself with other persons. What I do, I try to compare myself with myself from yesterday. So if today I'm a better individual, if today I have achieved something that has improved my life and that which I give to my community, I give to my people, then I have done something good for myself and for my country.
There are some instances where those students from those schools that are not top schools are a little bit disenfranchised because there are certain laboratories that they don't have access to.
Yes, so I know that exists, and
I-
that is why I'm saying I hope that all of the schools can be brought up to scratch. And this is something that I know the government is looking at. This is something that Minister Manichan would have mentioned. Anyways, Joel, our time has caught up with us. I'm being signaled that our time is up. So I'd like to thank you once again for being on the show with me. And hopefully you're here sometime in the future, whether with myself or Kian. But I'd also like to thank all of our viewers out there. I hope that the conversation was stimulated. I hope that the messages that were shared here can be taken out into the wider public. And of course, for us not to let this incident die the death that is currently happening, but for whatever issues were raised to be effectively addressed and for the system to be fixed. Right? Once again, this is the aPolitically Incorrect Guyana show, and I hope that you would have had a good time. And hopefully next week, Mr. Jabur is going to be back to continue with his regular programming. Thank you very much. Have a safe night and be safe on the roadways.